Hello, I'm Angelica Pozo, and today I'll be showing you how to do a technique called clay applique. It's a technique that's found in my book called Ceramics for Beginners, Surfaces, Glazes, and Firing. After rolling a nice even slab, you're ready to make some applique shapes. For this one, I am making these rectangles, and this ruler fits just perfect. So I cut from one direction, and then cross it, square it up to make my corners. They're a little soft right now, so I let them set aside to get firm up, but these have been ready for me, and so I have these ready to go. I want to score the backs for attachment, and they're going to go on the corners, so I want to make sure that I score the corners where they're going, and apply slip, and push and settle, press the applique into place and clean up the excess slip. And I'll do one more. Do the other corner. For the next section, I am going to use little triangle, using this cookie cutter to make shapes. And I cut them out and let them firm up a little bit, not too long. Just in the time of cutting enough to cut enough to use for my decoration. Once your little cutout shapes are dry, you can score the backs while they're against the table so that you don't bend them, and then position them in place, and use a needle tool to give yourself a little guide of where they are positioned. And then I've already done that to these over here, and I've already scored, so those are ready to be slipped. Pushed into place, and then instead of just pushing them into place, I'm using the stamp to push them into place and also decorate them at the same time. And that's using a stamp as a sprig to create a sprig. A sprig is usually made in a mold, but this way I've made the shape out of a cookie cutter and then use the stamp to decorate it. Now, an actual sprig is made in a mold like this. This is a sprig that I've made earlier from this sprig mold. If you have a sprig mold, which I'll show you how to make in a moment, you just fill it with clay, and scrape it down all the excess. While it's still in the mold, score the back, and then just take a little chunk of clay to pull it out of your mold and gently separate it, and then you have your sprig, and you want to score where it's going to go. Put a little slip there, a little slip on your sprig. There you have instant decoration. I made this sprig by using a button. It's really easy. You make a lump of clay. I kind of call it sort of a mushroom shape. But you flatten the top part that's big enough to fit your mold, your molded item, the item you're going to mold. And then brush it with an oil. This is furniture oil. You can use any kind of distillate oil or maybe vegetable oil, but if you grease it with a little oil, it'll remove from your clay very easily. Just brush that on there. And then press it into the clay. press it all the way into the clay and then bring the sides up, because you want to create a cupped kind of, enough of a shape that will hold clay to make it a sprig as opposed to just a stamp. So press that clay into the sides, try to keep it as flat as possible, and when it's pretty smooth, just pull it out and you have your sprig. Let's flatten out your flange, let that dry, biscuit, and you're ready, and you would have your sprig mold. To find more techniques, pick up the book, Ceramics for Beginners, Surfaces, Glazes, and Firing. Thank you. Hello, I'm Angelica Pozo, and today I'll be showing you how to do some carving techniques, a technique from my book, Ceramics for Beginners, Surfaces, Glazes, and Firing. I'm doing the carving technique here, but I want some guidance for my drawing, so that I've prepared my drawing on paper. In order to transfer my drawing, I have traced it onto this piece of plastic. So you can see how that fits on there, and then from this piece of plastic I can trace it onto the surface of my piece. So right now this will move out of position, so just to make it stick, just a very light misting of water just makes it stick ever so slightly so it won't slide on me as I'm putting my decoration on. Oops, it's a little bit out of position, so make sure it's in position. It's just this little bit of a static cling that you want it to be on there. And then, since these are straight edges, I'm going to use a ruler to guide. But you can use any tool, even a pencil, anything any dull pointed tool to etch a line into your surface. You can just draw directly onto it with a pencil or with any dull tool if you are comfortable with the image you're working with. But if you want to practice ahead of time, this is a really good way to transfer. Also a really good way if you're doing more than one of the same decoration. And ta-da! It's faintly there, but it's clear enough for you to be able to start working on it. So with carving or incising, if I was just to incise this, I can follow and my outline and have one form of decoration. So I could have it one form of decoration like that and just have it like that if I just want it incised. But if I want to do a little bit of carving and make it a little slightly dimensional, I can start shaving away some of the clay around the form and in certain areas where it would be the background to help that form pop up and give it a little bit more dimension. So this kind of carving to create dimension, a sense of dimension or a sense of depth. So you can carve around it as well as inside the form to make different parts pop up. Wherever it's deeper, that's where the form is going to look like it pops up the most. So just keep on working it until you get the effect you want. So here I've pretty much developed the level of depth that I want. I'm making that center part kind of pop up a little bit and give it a little bit more accent. So I'm pretty happy with that middle part. Now I want to do something with the outside part. This is another kind of fluting that, another kind of carving rather, it's called fluting. If you carve the sides of a pot with repeated ridges like the flutes of a column, that's where I believe it gets that name, I would guess. But I can accentuate my border. As I'm carving, I'm holding my thumb at the end to make sure I don't tear. So tear that last piece and get a nice crisp cut. Different kinds of tools will give you different shapes of carving, especially for doing this type of textured carving. So it's good to experiment and see what kinds of shapes you can get, what kinds of textures you can get. And there you have it. I framed my flower. To find more techniques, pick up the book, Ceramics for Beginners, Surfaces, Glazes, and Firing. Thank you.